Okay, so I wanted to do another video today, and so the last video I did, I was touching on some things, and it's not talked about very often at all, and this bizarre subject of hybrid humans, and living amongst us, and that's a very it's a subject that nobody's talking about. The whole alien hybrid issue. Ancient Aliens is touching on this a little bit. Just a little bit, but there's more things, another program coming out that's touching on it a little bit more on the History Channel. But uh, the the thing that did it for me, that really made me think that aliens don't have a good agenda, not a friendly agenda, is when I saw this movie called The Fourth Kind with Mila Jovovich. She's one of my favorite actresses. And it was based on the true events that happened in Nome, Alaska, where there was all of these people getting abducted, and a psychiatrist started interviewing them and actually put them under hypnosis because they didn't remember what happened to them exactly in their regular conscious, but in their subconscious they did. And so when she put them under, you would actually hear the stories of what happened to them, and she videotaped this, and there's real footage in there, and there's real footage of them being hypnotized and what they talk about happened to them, and also um, there was one time when somebody recorded on audio exactly what happened to them, and they were actually talking. The aliens were talking, and they were talking like an ancient language. Ancient. That was, this was all real footage. So that's what really did it for me. Thinking that this is a scary agenda, not a good agenda. So anyway, but I wanted to touch on several different subjects today, because for those of you who are new to my channel, this all started with me being a National Guard whistleblower. I uncovered a $2.7 million embezzlement scandal at the Arizona National Guard, and you can Google that. You can Google Arizona Guard embezzlement, and you'll see that 2.7 million. They found 2.7 million missing from the Emergency Relief Fund office, and as far as I know, it's never been uncovered. It's never been recovered, and nobody really knows where that money went to. So my issue that I'm trying to point out that relates to that is this whole issue that how they're trying to go after Trump's taxes. And I'll tell you what, people, that money, the money that was flowing in that base was in the multi-millions. There was all of these different operations going through the Arizona National Guard, multi-millions of dollars. There was all of these programs. There was the border mission. There was these joint force task mission that were going after the drug, and that was all being funneled through there. There was all of this money being funneled through there, and then there was, and then some money very easily, and some money could possibly end up missing because there was such a large amount going through there. And I have sent a letter to the IRS, and I said I would like to know what the taxes were paid on the money that was missing, and the money that was flowing in there and embezzled from there. And I want to know what taxes were paid on that 2.7 million, because some of those were private donations, and some of those were state and federal donations that was supposed to go to the Emergency Relief Fund. So I think all people should ask the government to show us what taxes were paid on those monies, before Trump should ever have to show any of his taxes. And I would like to see Nancy Pelosi's taxes and Amy Klobuchar's taxes, because I will get into something with Amy Klobuchar here in a minute. But doesn't anybody think it's strange that all of these politicians, they come into office and they just have regular jobs, regular salaries, and then they all seem to leave as millionaires. Okay, so, to me, that's just very obvious that there's some dirty deals going on in Washington. You know, so this has just triggered one more thing, when they're trying to say Trump is evading taxes or something. It just, to me, it's so laugh worthy because I know how much money was embezzled and laundered through that base in Arizona. And John McCain was a part of that, of course. And so the thing I want to mention about Amy Klobuchar is that as she's running for president right now and on the Democratic ticket. And when I first moved back to Minnesota from Arizona, where I'm from, I moved back to Minnesota. I tried reporting all of the things that happened to me illegally at that base to Amy Klobuchar's office and Al Franken because I had proof and evidence that I was wrongfully discharged and wrongfully harassed, and I still have all the evidence, and so um, she didn't do one thing to help me. She didn't even respond with a letter or anything. No response at all. So, that's how Amy Klobuchar would take care of the veterans. She doesn't care. She didn't care anything about my case. And so if she does that to one veteran, she'll do that to more. And so I feel that she's very much a part of the bad side, and even though she comes off as nice. And the other thing that I know is that because I had a friend who was helping the Republican side that was running against her. I have a friend who was part of the campaign of the Republican person who was running against her. And it was a very good candidate. It would have been a very good senator. And he told me that they just couldn't compete because Amy Klobuchar had so much money behind her from U.S. Bank and Wells Fargo. So you had U.S. Bank and Wells Fargo who were very much about, Hi, Pearl. Here's Pearl. She's my. You want to do a video with me? And so they're very much a part um, of endorsing the Democratic Party. So they told me that they couldn't compete with them. Hey, Pearl. Okay. They told me that they couldn't compete with the with the Democratic Party because there was so much money behind Amy Klobuchar's campaign. So that is how she became senator in Minnesota. So and then and so the other thing I want to mention is, I just think that Nancy Pelosi especially is just disgusting to me. And I have reasons for why I don't like this. And because one thing that I learned from my friend in Minnesota who was also involved in trying to fight Dodd Franck, that she was involved in passing this act, this terrible act years ago called Dodd Franck, and it was under the Obama administration, and she was just like, well, let's pass it and read it later, like they did with Obamacare. I mean, these people are insane, that the way that they've been running this country. And so she was part of passing the Dodd Franck Act, and it's made it very difficult for people to refinance their homes and to get first time mortgages and things if you can't prove certain things. So she was part of that, and she was also part of something that they sent me. And a lot of people probably wouldn't know this because this wasn't on the news, but Nancy Pelosi was part of blocking something that they were trying to pass. They were trying to not appeal, but they were trying to amend Title 18, HR 962. And the 116th Congress was trying to amend HR 962, Title 18, to prohibit a healthcare practitioner from failing to exercise the proper degree of care in the case of a child who survives an abortion or attempted abortion. Okay, and what you probably didn't hear is that these guys had to meet in the basement, um, despite having several vacant U.S. hearing rooms available, because Nancy Pelosi obstructed justice, and she wouldn't let them use any vacant U.S. House hearing rooms. Okay? So that's Nancy Pelosi, that's our Speaker of the House. She obstructed justice, and they had to meet in the basement when they were trying to um, amend this law, HR 962. It's called the Born Alive Bill. It was September 11th, 2019, so just last month. She obstructed justice, and she would not let these people meet regarding this, what they were trying to do, which was, something good. So I personally think that Nancy Pelosi is disgusting, and um, she's, of course, is a big part of trying to pass this impeachment. They just are supposedly just on government salaries. That's what everybody should be questioning in America. Um, so anyway, and I also heard from another soldier in Arizona, because I've been exposing a lot of things in Arizona, and they said that there just like there's been tunnels being found all under Ohio, apparently, and many different areas of California. There's also tons of high-speed tunnels under Arizona, high speed. So, um, so I think so. I wanted to just mention all those things, and I think that people need to ask a lot of questions as far as the taxes involving all of these politicians and how they end up being millionaires after 20 years or something, when they just start out as on a regular government salary. If you're going to start demanding Trump's taxes, we're going to start demanding the taxes from the Arizona National Guard and all of your taxes, because I don't understand how they end up becoming millionaires with just government salary that we pay with our federal money. Okay, this should be everybody, everybody asking the same thing. And and I know that in some of my other videos I've touched on issues with the police that I have, and I'm not. I want to just make sure that people understand this. I'm not anti-police. Um, I'm all for the good cops. We need the good cops. Don't get me wrong. We need the good cops, and the good cops are doing a good job. There's a lot of good cops that are doing a good job, and I appreciate those guys. Um, One thing that I have personally seen that bugs me, I think there are still bad cops, but the thing that bothers me is that um, they have immunities in court. I had a very specific incident happen to me in Minnesota. I had several, because that's when I first moved back from Arizona and Minnesota. I started getting harassed by corrupt police that they used to target me, and they were, I'm sure, sent well, they were the bad police. Okay, and there's very good police in Minnesota, but they were the bad side. And the same thing happened to Timothy Holmseth, if you've heard his story, and he ended up facing these crazy charges in the Minnesota court because he was targeted like I was. So I was pulled over. I mean, more than 20 times. I mean, it just was unbelievable what happened to me when I first moved back from Arizona, the way I was targeted. But and I had evidence that I was wrongfully targeted and wrongfully. I mean, I had evidence against the police of different things that they did illegal to me, and I couldn't sue them in court because they had immunities. So apparently the police have immunities in court, and so you can't sue them. You can maybe sue the city or the county, but you can't sue the police. So my whole issue with the police is that I feel that they need to be held to the same standards that the rest of society is, or above standards, if they're going to be the ones enforcing the standards. So how is it fair that they can target us and do whatever they want to for us, but then we can't ever, if they do anything wrong, we can't ever go after them? So that's the issue that I'm trying to say. It's not that I'm saying I'm anti-police. I'm saying that there needs to be uh, fair. It needs to be fair on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to be doing more videos, but this is the one I want to touch on today.